All right, Professor Fields here. This is Chapter 1 still, Learning Outcome number 1.4. We're going to talk about critiquing how the consensus and conflict models help or hinder public policy. So the consensus model supports the idea that we have a social contract, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. And there's general agreement about what behaviors we think are harmful to society, and therefore we should either prohibit or allow, not harmful behaviors, but we should prohibit harmful behaviors from hurting society. This has to do with Locke's social contract, and basically what it says is that we're willing to give up some of our freedoms in order to have a safer environment. So in other words, if we had absolute freedom, say I walked in, I saw your cell phone there, I said, hey, I want your cell phone, I picked it up and walked out of it. That's 100% freedom. We don't have that. If it's your cell phone, it's your property, you get to keep it. If I walk in, grab it, and steal it, then the government has said that's illegal, and they can have the power to arrest the person that stole your cell phone. So there are some certain inconveniences. You don't have absolute freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. But we give up that power, that social contract. And there's the conflict model. The conflict model is based on the notion that there's a power struggle in our society. Sometimes it's between the rich and the poor, it's between the haves and the have-nots. Its roots in the ideology of Karl Marx, again between the haves and the have-nots, and those in power define what and what is not criminal behavior, and they exert the control over the people that don't have the power. So the people in power have control and make the laws that they believe should be the way they are. For example, over the last few years, there's been a lot of high-profile incidents where there was the use of guns. There was the Sandy Hook killings, where they killed a bunch of kids in school. You got the Colorado theater shooter here who just got convicted. He killed a bunch of people in a Colorado theater. And the general consensus in the United States, which I'll show on the next slide, was that let me back up. President Obama decided with Congress that we should do something about that. That we should limit the amount of handguns that are out there or do something about that. So he proposed some laws, simple things like running background checks on people that are about to buy a gun. And they surveyed the majority of Americans, or they surveyed Americans, and the majority of those surveyed, you can see in the slide here, 71%, 60%, 75%, 76%, majority of Americans said, yeah, I think running a background check on a guy that's about to buy a gun is a good idea. Do we want to sell a gun to that guy with orange hair that killed everybody in the theater? They said, no, it's a good idea that we probably should run background checks on the people that buy guns. So they proposed this legislation, they sent it forward to Congress, and what happened? What happened was the National Rifle Association, which is a powerful group, even though it was a minority opinion, they were able to defeat the law that said we should run background checks on people, on nutcases that are about to buy guns. So this was a minority group that has a lot of power, a lot of political power, that was able to exert its power on the majority of citizens. Now this happens in a lot of other cases, this just happens to be the example I chose. You could choose other examples like environmental issues, drilling for oil, fracking. People that have money, if you haven't figured this out yet, people that have money are able to exert their influence on people that don't have money and get laws passed. So that's Learning Outcome 1.4. Thank you.